One of the best ways to capture early sales as a new shop on Etsy is with personalization. But if you're a brand new seller, it can feel a little scary. And I get that. When I first started with print on demand in 2022, the thought of personalization made me super nervous. So I didn't start using it right away. And quite frankly, I know I missed out on a ton of sales as a result of it. But the good news for you, my friend, is that Printify recently made updates to their platform that makes the process much easier. So for today's video, I'm going to walk you through the entire process. I'll reveal a top profitable niche that has been successful for me over the years, how I would create a new design based on current demand, how to turn that into a personalized listing in Printify, and how to actually process a personalized order once it comes in. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Mandy. I got my start on the handmade side of Etsy many years ago and have since turned to freedom from fulfillment with print on demand, which has allowed me to scale to more than $400,000 in revenue in less time than it takes most handmade businesses to climb out of the red. As a result, I now have the absolute privilege of being able to help you uncover that same joy and excitement of running your own successful business. So, here on my channel, my goal is to provide you with strategies to simplify the process so that you can stop the overwhelm and start thriving in your entrepreneurial journey. Now, the top profitable niche that I'm going to use today is pregnancy announcements. And there's a few reasons why this lands at the top of my list right now. Number one, it doesn't matter what the economy is doing, people are always having babies, and they're always buying things to tell other people that they're having babies. So there is always demand. When I'm looking for profitable niches on Etsy, I can validate this with a broad search. When I do this, there should be bestsellers or popular now listings in the results. If there are, that tells me that there are likely plenty of customers that are actively buying in this niche. If there are none, there's a risk that there's not enough demand. If there is strong demand, you will always find at least one bestseller. And number two, this is a highly scalable niche. Not only are there tons of different themes and seasons that you can combine and connect with this niche at any given time, but think about this important milestone for the actual customer buying it. They may be buying an announcement shirt or announcement mug now, but they might also want a shirt for their spouse or their sister who will be a future auntie, or for products for the kids' room down the line. And then further down the road, they may want a proud mom shirt with different sub niches or themes based on their interests. That demand, combined with this ability to scale in so many different ways, means maximum profitability potential. So then we need to think about our design. I like to look at the marketplace in general to see what's in demand and trending. I can see that, for example, Coquette is still doing really well. Food and fruit related designs have been trending, so there's maybe some potential there. With pregnancy announcements, seasonal designs with a theme can also do quite well. Right now, we're at the end of November, so I'm not going to start making a Christmas design. Seasonal success on Etsy requires looking at seasons and holidays much farther in advance. But what I can do is look and see what's performing well already for Christmas and where there's opportunity to translate that into a future holiday design. So, for example, this In My Merry and Pregnant Era design is a great spin on a trend that we've seen consistently do well. It combines the wavy text trend as well as the scalable In My Era concept. So, that's something that I would be thinking about as I contemplate my design. What I'm also thinking about are future seasons. In December, searches for Valentine's start to increase. So let's make a Valentine's Day themed pregnancy announcement shirt. utilizing some of the trends that we've seen. And of course, we need to make it personalized. To do this, let's head over to Kittle. For this design, I want to do a Valentine's Day theme, and so I want to bring in elements of pink and cute and kind of coquette styles that we saw, and then I also want to incorporate that in my era style, but instead of merry, we'll go with in my sweet and pregnant era to really tie it all together. We're going to use that kind of retro style text. So in Kittle, they have quite a few options. I really like this sunny drop. It's got that nice retro look to it. And we're going to expand that out. Once I have that started, I can then duplicate it. And then I'm going to put this on a separate line. If I want to emphasize the sizing on some of these, I can make part of it a little bit different. I can shrink this down a little bit, and we'll adjust all of this as we go. For now, I just want to get kind of a baseline text started. So this is a smaller word. We can make it bigger if we want to. And then I have a few elements that I got from Creative Fabrica that kind of fit that style of berries. It's got that cute coquette style, but it can also be used for more of a Valentine's Day style just because of the coloring. And so I'm going to just drop a couple of these elements in, mostly so that I can start by leveraging some of the colors that are in here. So we'll just drop a couple, and then I will eventually rearrange these. So now we can start grabbing some of those colors. And I like this concept of the lighter inside and then the red outline, so I can actually replicate that by using my color picker. So for the inside lettering, I want this lighter color. And for some shirts, that would show up well if I had a darker shirt, but I want this to be a little bit more universal. So then what I can do is I can actually add on a border. And that will allow me to not only add some dimension, but now I can bring in some of these other darker colors to really offset that. So if I grab kind of this darker red, now I have an outline that will help make this lighter lettering a bit more visible, regardless of what color that I put it on. So now this line I might do in a different shade. So let's try this one. I want the pregnant to stand out a little bit more, so we can grab something a little bit darker maybe. I can try out some different variations to see which one I like best. Let's try something like that. And then let's go with the darker pink down here. So if we wanted to, again, add further dimension to each of these, I can add a border to those as well. Can match the sizing here a bit, and then we'll choose a different color that's kind of in the same hue family. Can do the same here. Again, because we're leveraging the same colors that are already part of the design, that will help ensure that it stays cohesive. I think I'll leave that without a border because that will stand on its own and it will help make it a little bit different. So then let's add a final border here, and we can go with red again, darker one to stand out. So that'll add a little bit of variation in there. Now I want to jazz this up a little bit because remember we saw that wavy trend. So that's the next thing I'm going to do is really use the text as kind of like an anchor for the design, and then I can go around and place the rest of the elements once that's done. So to create that wave, I'm going to use the distort option. I like this one because it lets me kind of freeform the actual design. They have other like wave and some other ones that do work in specific cases, or even this flag is kind of similar. But again, I really want the control to kind of give it some movement and have it be a little bit different. So to do that, I'm just going to start pulling on each of these corners to kind of stretch it a bit. And then to create the wave, I simply am going to pull on these different levers that are in the middle, and that will help create that movement in the text. And so once I have one done, then it's easy to go through and with the others below it, use that again as kind of an anchor to match that wave. And I can create some slightly different bends in there. And again, that's what allows me to create that nice wave in there. And if I need to adjust, it's easy enough to come in here and click on edit text, and that will turn my little anchors back on again. So again, as I'm going through, if I need to make adjustments, it's very easy to do that. As I'm adding each of these, this center one controls kind of where that wave happens. So again, I can adjust it as needed. And when I use these corner ones, it's a nice way to help stretch the text. So again, if I want to really have this be kind of the prominent element in there, that works out really nicely. And sometimes as I'm creating these designs, as it comes together, I will go back and make some changes. So for example, as I'm kind of building this out, I'm not necessarily loving this exact kind of color structure. So I'm going to go back and make a few tweaks and just play around with it so that I do get to a place where I really like what I'm seeing. And again, sometimes this just takes some playing around with a design to really land on that design where you kind of step back and look at the screen and say, yes, that looks really good and can stand up and really hold up against those designs that we saw out on the marketplace. So for example, I went back through and just recolored a couple of these, and I like this much better. And I like that the suite really stands out, and so does the era as being kind of the two darker colors. So once I've got that piece done, the next thing I'm going to do is go through and just kind of place a couple of these other design elements. I like this little bow in there, and I might put that here over the and. I'm just going to play around with the other elements to incorporate them and have them be almost just like supporting characters in this particular design. I don't necessarily want them taking over. It's just to really emphasize what this is for, who it's intended for, and incorporate some of those elements that we saw doing well in the marketplace. So again, I want to kind of bring in some of those little berries in there. We've got the bows already incorporated as part of those. And I'm going to just distribute those so I've got some nice balance as part of the design in here. So it might take a couple of rounds of editing, but again, we want this to look cohesive and brought together as one design. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a pregnancy announcement design if we didn't have some sort of other little baby elements in there. So again, I just got these from Creative Fabrica, and when I drop these in, you'll notice that they're black. Well, we don't want these black, weird-looking feet on our design. So what I can do is, because these were imported as a PNG, I can actually use this image vectorizer. I'm going to vectorize this graphic. So once it's done, I will be able to change the color of these feet. And since we already have our nice little color palette here, I can simply incorporate that as part of my design now. So I can add maybe a tiny little set down here and incorporate part of our design colors in there. And if I wanted to add another one, I can simply duplicate it and maybe bring up another set up here, and then I can use a slightly different color at the top. Once I've added in a few other elements, you can see I've added quite a bit. I've got little sparkles or twinkles in here that I've added, again, to just kind of round out the design and add in some of those other related elements that will just help that design really stand out. So once I've got that set, I'm going to just make sure I've got this to the full width of my design area so that when I place it, in Printify for the design itself on the shirt, it will really fill the space nicely. Once we have our design complete, I'm intending on having this be on the back of a shirt. And so then we need our personalization element. And another trending style is to have a front pocket style in combination with that back print. So I'm going to have the personalization then be on the front of the shirt. And I don't need to open up a separate one. I want to actually keep this all together. So in Kittle, I can simply click on this little hash up here. What that's going to allow me to do is create another artboard off to the side. Because this is a pocket, I don't need it to be quite as big. So I'm just going to do right around 3,000 or so pixels. And that's going to be more than enough for our pocket style design. And I want it to really be cohesive with what we created on the back. And I like the idea of having something with the bow and the berries. And so I'm going to actually just grab this little portion here with these two, and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to bring that over to this artboard. We'll use that as kind of our basis for this pocket design. So we're going to place this on here. I'm going to almost mimic having one larger berry and one smaller, just to kind of, again, have a subtle reference to what this is for. And again, this will just be our placeholder design so that when we create our mock-up and so that when we upload to Printify, we've got something there as a starting place. So we're going to mimic the same typography that we had on the back. We'll bring in some similar colors and we'll add a border again just to ensure that it stands out nicely. And we'll center that. And then we can also add another line below if we wanted to, and have it be a 2025 or custom date in there as well. I usually do a complementary font, so I'll usually do something that's kind of tall and skinny to pair with it. So I tend to like Adventurer here. Anton is another good one. I think I might do Anton just to make it a little bit bolder. Expand that out. We'll change our color here. We'll do that one. Once we've got our designs, the other thing that I do is I get my mockups ready so that then when I go list it in Printify and then finalize it on Etsy, everything is nice and ready to go. This also helps me ensure that when I get to Printify, I have a good sense of which colors I want to use for this particular design. And again, if we wanted to, we can even keep them all together. If we wanted to have our mockups together, we certainly could. Mockups will generally be smaller, so you can actually keep them pretty small here. I generally go right around 2700 by 2200 is kind of a good place to land. It's not too square, it's not too rectangle. So for example, I like to use the mockups from Mocks by Little Feather. So if I wanted to incorporate that here, I can expand this. And then if I wanted to add the front here, I can actually add a mask. And so if I do that, and I add that over here, shrink that down, I want to easily be able to show the left side pocket. So now if I bring this image over, I can adjust that. And now I can be able to show both. So when I place these on the mock-up, I know that it's going to take up a lot of real estate, so I want to make sure I have that nice and large on the back. I still remember to drop the opacity so that it's not super bright. And then I also want to send it backwards so that it layers underneath this little overlay that I've got with this one. And so then I can do the same here, add on my pocket design, and bring that up here to make sure that that's nice and prominent. And then again, lower that opacity so that it's not super sharp in that image. And so if we zoom in a little bit, that looks about right. And so then we can do this for each of our mockups if we want to, and then we can make sure that everything is downloaded and ready to go for Etsy. Remember, mockups are just as important to the design and listing process as the design itself, because you can create a really great design, but if you put it on a terrible mockup, it's not going to be as appealing to customers, and you really want to have a really nice visual presentation for your listings. Next, we're going to head into Printify. So I've got one of my test shops here, and I'm going to start with a new listing, in this case, if you're starting fresh. Now, oftentimes, if I already have one that's very similar, I'll start with that, but I wanted to show you the process from scratch. So I'm going to do this on a Comfort Colors t-shirt because I know those are very trendy and there's high demand for those. So I'm going to select that. I prefer to choose my own provider, so I liked Swift POD. So I'm going to click on Start Designing. Then I'm going to select the variations that I chose for this design. So I'm going to do white and espresso, ivory, and then I'm also going to add orchid and blossom. And this is based on the mockups that I've done, so I know which ones are going to look really nice with this particular image. First, I'm going to upload my placeholder for the front, which is going to be the personalized design. So I'm going to adjust that down and get it to the right size. If I go back here, I can see exactly what I'm working with. I tend to go for a pocket design. Right around 4 or even 4.5 is about right. So I'll adjust that, and again, I don't need to get it exactly spot on because this is just going to be a placeholder. Then I'm going to add my back image, and for this one I do want to make sure I get the placement right, because when we are personalizing we won't need to do anything with this back image, so that means I want to have it set and ready to go from the very beginning. So that looks about right. So we've got our back ready and we've got our front ready. So now we can click on Save Product. I don't use any Printify mockups for my apparel, so I will either get rid of a few or, again, it doesn't really matter, so I will usually just do Save Selection. Then when I get here, I'm going to fill out my listing. So for this one, I've done personalized in my pregnancy era Comfort Colors shirt. So that's a nice descriptor. First 40 to 60 characters is the first thing that customers see. So you want to make sure it's relevant. We've got some strong keywords in there. And then we're going to, again, add some additional variety in our keywords so that we can show up in multiple different searches. So I've added in custom Valentine's Day pregnancy announcement, expecting mom gender reveal gift. And Etsy will then also kind of mix and match these along the way to test out which searches perform best for this listing. When we get down to the description, there's going to be some information here that's really just intended for you as the seller. So I clean this up a bit. Etsy recommends using the first 1 to 2 sentences of your description to provide additional context for what the product is. So this is a great place to incorporate additional strong keywords. I like to use ChatGPT for this. And then I also fill out the remaining portion of the description with important details such as what the garment is. So I will keep in some of these details. I also incorporate care instructions, particularly if it's for apparel. I include short details on the production timeline and the fact that I work with a printing partner and what that expectation can look like in terms of timing, as well as the fact that this is a direct garment print and also what to expect with that. So I use this description to really make sure I'm communicating important details to the customer. And I've got a template for this that I use to make the process go faster. And then as I create subsequent listings, I'm able to reuse some of that information. So you can see I've got a couple sentences in there. I've also used this as an opportunity to further describe what it is, since I didn't necessarily have enough room in the title itself. And then I've got the rest of the information filled out and ready. You're now able to incorporate tags on the Printify side as well. So this is one area that I do complete in Printify because, again, as I create subsequent listings, I can use this as a template and it makes the listing process go very fast. And it's one less thing that I'll then have to finalize once I get to Etsy. So I'm going to bring down several of the keywords that I used in the title so that it does reinforce what this is and can further assist the algorithm in matching searches with this listing. And remember, we want to make sure we're using all 13 tags. So you can see I brought down elements from the title as well as adding in, again, some additional keywords that ideal customers would potentially be using so that my listing will show up for them. Now we get down to the personalization that's part of Printify. There is a new option to enable personalization. What this does is it's going to essentially flag this product listing as being personalizable so that when an order comes in, it's not mixed in with the rest and is very easy to manage. Now you can see when I turned on this toggle, it's prompting me to add in the instructions for the customer. And the beauty of this is now I don't have to remember to do this on Etsy, where I would normally have to turn that on and where I will sometimes see new sellers forget to turn on that personalization option, which means that when the customer sees the listing, they can't actually add instructions or personalize it. So that can definitely be a problem with conversion. But now it's all built in right here in Printify, so there's no more forgetting to do that. Now you can do it as part of this initial listing process. I typically add in very specific instructions for this and make it very clear what the customer is supposed to be adding in based on what's going to be personalized. So for this one, I would indicate to please enter the last name and year that you would like printed on the shirt for the front design. And then I've left in, I like this wording that Printify has, reach out to us directly for any additional requests. And then I give an example of what I mean in terms of what they should be entering. So it's very clear for the customer. Then when we get down to the rest, you're going to add in your shipping profile, and then you're going to set up your pricing. When you're setting your price, make sure that you are factoring in that with a front and back design. In this particular case, there is additional cost for the second print area, and it's just under $5. So make sure that you are factoring that in and using a profit calculator to set your prices. Then when we get down to the bottom, if you're going to edit the listing right away in Etsy, then you don't need to check this hide in store. However, if it's going to take you a little bit to finalize in Etsy, where you're not going to come back to it right away, I recommend using this hide in store so that it publishes in your drafts. And that is because Etsy's algorithm starts looking at and testing listings right away when they're published. And when you publish it, it's not going to have all of your nice mockups and all of your other final settings in there. So that's why I'll use that hide in store option if I'm not going to get to it right away, because as quickly as possible, you want to make sure your good mockups are in there and that it's ready to go as soon as possible. So since I'm going to work on this and finalize it in Etsy right away, I'm fine with leaving that published for now. I always select this top option unless there happens to be a lot of variations that are out of stock. Then I will use this show as sold out. But I select this top one because Printify isn't going to automatically update your inventory anyway, so none of these really matter. I'm going to unselect mockups because I don't want those to publish. So what Printify will do is it will publish one mockup so that you know which design it's for. And then I will leave this tags option checked. And then we're ready to publish and finalize it in Etsy. Over in my test shop, you can now see that the new listing is here. And so there's really only a few things that I need to do at this point to finalize it. First, I want to make sure, again, I add in my mockups and a listing video. Once that's set, we make sure that the thumbnail looks good. Our description and everything is already ready to go. Our personalization is already turned on with instructions and ready to go. So when we get down here, I'm going to link my mockup photos to the actual colors. So when a customer selects a color from the drop-down list in the listing, they'll actually be able to see exactly which color and photo it's associated with. I find that that's better for conversion when they can see exactly what their color selection is going to look like. Here in the details, yes, I know this is controversial, but because I am also a handmade seller, I do not feel in good confidence that I did as the option for who made it makes sense. So I have always used another company or person because I am not touching anything with that final product. And remember, when you set up production partners in Etsy, you indicate there that you design it and somebody else fulfills it. So that takes care of reflecting that you had a hand in creating this product. So we're going to select our production partner here and apply. I always select attributes that make sense. So in this case, I will select some colors that I've got incorporated in the design, because remember, these attributes essentially are utilized in the algorithm as additional tags. So again, this is one of those things that can help. Now in this case, because there is a Valentine's element to it, I am selecting Valentine's. If I did not, I would not randomly select this. Only select holidays and other attributes if they are actually relevant. So we'll continue scrolling. Our shipping is already factored in. Our policies are already set up. So we'll add a section here since I don't have one in this test shop, and we'll just call it pregnancy announcements. And then I like to have it set up as automatic renewal, and then we will publish. So that takes care of it on the Etsy side of things. Now, when an order comes in, we can easily fulfill this on Printify with that personalization. When a personalized order comes in, remember our product has that personalizable tag associated with it when we set it up in Printify. So this is how we will know that we've got that turned on. So then when an order shows up, that'll be reflected there. There's also a separate tab for personalizable orders so you can see them at a glance, but you'll notice that there's not going to be an option where you can accidentally hit submit. And even if you have automatic fulfillment turned on, it won't go into fulfillment automatically. You must review it and update it first. So when we click into this, you can see it's got the product associated with it. Now there's a button that says review. Now I created this one as a test manual order. When it comes over from Etsy, you will see the buyer's personalization text that they entered into that box will show up here. So you'll have an easy reference point to that personalization. Since I created my design outside of Printify, I would then go update that design in my design software. Once I have that design ready, I can come in here to review. It's going to take me to the design. When you make your personalization update, it's only going to be associated with this order. This is not going to change that original template that you created. So I'm going to simply swap out the design with whatever I updated for personalization. Let's say that this one was for maybe Smith was the personalized name that the customer had in there. So I updated the design, and then I'm going to replace where it was here in the pocket. I've got it lined up with that outer collar, and that's good to go. You can ignore any other color options that the platform brings in. Those don't matter and will not affect the order itself. All we care about is updating the design and then clicking on Approve Personalization. Your tiny little thumbnail here will not change. However, if you click onto it and expand it, you'll see that it's now got that updated design in the pocket and that our back design is still there as originally intended. So now, once that's done, it's now changed to approved. Everything else is all set and ready to go, and you can simply hit submit. And just like any other order, once it's done in production, it'll connect back over to Etsy with the tracking information, and that's all you need to do. As you can see, the process to create and sell personalized listings is now so much easier. So I hope this has helped provide you with some additional confidence in creating more personalized listings for your business. This concept of identifying and scaling niches and then leveraging demand is something that I cover and emphasize on a regular basis inside my private membership. I am excited to announce that the doors will be reopening very soon, and with it, a huge overhaul that has been months in the making and rebuilt from the ground up as the new Simply Thrive Print on Demand Growth Hub, with all new modules and resources to help you dream, define, launch, and scale your business. The doors to the newly expanded membership will open on December 4th to coincide with our upcoming annual planning power hour in the group on December 13th, which will be all about setting goals to make 2025 your best year yet. I will link the waitlist for you below so that you don't miss your chance. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you want to learn more about my strategies for thriving in your print on demand business, make sure you've got the notifications turned on for my channel so that you don't miss out on any of my free content. And in the meantime, stay focused, my friends, keep taking action, and never stop pursuing excellence in your business. Thanks for watching. I'm so glad you're here, and I'll see you in the next one.